Hello boys and girls, this is your friendly neighborhood dragon rider, and I'm here today to report to you my impressions I had while testing the new Yamaha XSR900 in beautiful Tuscany in Italy. So we had the opportunity to test this new bike for about 180 kilometers on beautiful roads and in this beautiful scenery in this very green part of Italy. You know, there were some beautiful winding roads, some faster roads, some, I wouldn't say many, but there were also some tighter corners. I mean, if there was missing something, it would be a longer section with really narrow corners, but I was already able to test that as well. So that's not a big issue. And we had some, as I said, some really nice twisty roads, but there were also some urban sections and of course some highway riding. So I guess we were able to get a pretty nice impression of about how this new XSR edition performs. And just for the beginning, I just wanted to point out that this is really a new bike. It's not only, you know, a new engine or new electronics package. It's really the chassis, the overall feeling, you know, the riding position, everything was changed to fit, you know, the target need better. So what does that mean? You can really expect a more sportier bike from this new Yamaha XSR900, and let me tell you, I might not be the worst person to judge this because I own the outgoing model for more than 20,000 kilometers now. So yeah, I would say that I have some experience with the outgoing model and can also judge all the changes that were made with the new one. So this is not simply your revamped or, you know, newly dressed MT-09 from last year. This is really a new bike and it has a much different focus. So what they were really, you know, striving to do was integrate you more into the motorcycle. So if you're looking at the bike, you already see that the seating position is a bit lower. You know, the handlebars are lower, the front is lowered, everything is sportier, let's say, which makes all of those changes to the bike even more effective. In the end, what you get with this bike, so I will spoil that from the beginning, you will get much more natural and much more transparent feeling for the bike, especially for the front wheel, which is great to build your confidence if you're going into corners. So the new riding position is more sporty, you know, your knees will be bent a bit more. It's a more forward-facing riding position and everything, and as you might be able to tell from the images, the seat is not really thick, so this is a very sporty seat. All in all, this makes the bike a bit less friendly to commute, but you know, the strengths of this new XSR900 really lie elsewhere, and I would say that this was one of the bikes I enjoyed most in twisty roads in the in the last time I rode bikes, and in the last couple months, let's say. So from the get-go, the bike works well. It feels very natural. Turning in is great, you know. The stability in the corners is also much improved. I mean, there are some different factors contributing to that. One is, of course, the longer swing arm that is coming from the Tracer 9 series. Maybe also the changes they made to the chassis, to the suspension, everything, you know, the new riding position, all that helps to make this bike really perform well in twisties. And one of the main advantages with this new bike was really that the suspension works much better than with the, you know, with the old XSR900, because as I mentioned, this is not just a revamped MT-09. This is really a new bike. Everything was purposely designed for the new conception, and you can really feel that. It feels very natural. Agility is still great. I mean, the wheelbase is now much longer. It's actually much longer than MT10. I won't give you too many numbers here, but you know, it's longer. It still feels agile. It's probably around the very let's say the very narrow corners, very tight corners. It might not be the best bike, but it still turns in very nicely. And also, I would say that spin forged wheels that were introduced with the last MT09 and Tracer 9 generation, and that are now also on the XSR900, really help to make that agility even better.
Okay, gentlemen, start your engine.
Yeah, and I would say that everything was built around this sport you're feeling, and it's only fitting that the engine has much more mid-range. We already know the engine from last year's MT09, so this was not hugely changed. You know, it makes about 4-8 horsepower more power. It makes, let's say, 6 Newton meters more torque. But the great news is really that the mid-range was very much boosted, and you really immediately feel this boost in the mid-range. This boost comes actually from, you know, while they changed the engine to meet Euro 5 regulations, they also increased the displacement, and they did that by increasing the stroke. And usually what increasing the stroke means is actually that you get more torque lower down, you get more efficiency, so that's also reflected in the fuel efficiency. But you know, what's really great about this new engine is that you get the torque much further down in the rev range, which is about 7,000 RPM. You get the max torque instead of 8,500 RPM with the outgoing model. So that really boosts performance in many situations, and I can really say that usually I only use 4th to 6th gear because that's enough. For tighter corners you might want to use 2nd or 3rd gear, especially as the first 2 gears were made a bit longer in comparison to the outgoing model. And yeah, changing gears would be another keyword, which is much easier now because you get this, you know, from the standard version, you just get from the get-go this bi-directional quick shifter, which works really well. I mean, I would say it works even better than in the MT10. It's butter smooth for upshifting, for downshifting. It's just really working well. Another cool thing about the bike is the cruise control, of course. So this was also added as standard for the XSR900. You usually get it for the Tracer models and also for the MT09 SP. And this really helps if you're commuting, if you have to, you know, bridge some distance. I think it works well. It's available from 50 kilometers per hour in 4th gear. That's quite the Yamaha standard. So this is really, you know, very helpful if you want to take it a bit more calm. The new electronics package includes everything you can wish for, actually. So I already mentioned the cruise control and the bi-directional quick shifter. You also get cornering ABS. You get traction control, slide control, lift control, which are all dependent on your lean angle and stuff, because there's an inertia measurement unit. You get different riding modes, so you can select between 4 different riding modes, which is also great. Get from 1 to 4. Mode 1 is more or less the most aggressive, 4 the least aggressive, also called rain mode sometimes. So you get a lot of options to customize the way your bike feels for yourself. In my honest opinion, I only use the first two modes for the riding modes, because if I want to have this really direct throttle feel, I will use number 1. If I want a bit more balanced approach, number 2, and 3 is, in my opinion, not really fitting for the bike, because that's more a touring mode, which is kind of indirect, and 4 is rain mode, and you usually don't ride these bikes in the rain, let's say. So there's more to talk about. Of course, brakes were also improved for the new bike. They feature now a radial master cylinder from Brembo, which helps a lot in improving the brake feel. The brake discs remained the same, so you still get those 298mm brake discs in the front and the 245 brake disc in the back. And I would say everything works well there, especially also because the bike is still very light. It even lost 2 kilograms in comparison to the old version, which is great. So you get 193 kilograms if it's fully fueled. And I guess, speaking of fully fueled, the fuel tank is around 14 liters, so that didn't really change, but they changed the shape of the tank a lot to make you sit more integrated into the bike and get a bit more of liberty to move around. So this was basically my experience I had. One of the important things I didn't mention is that compared to the outgoing model, the suspension is much more comfortable, and we were really able to test this on a very, very bumpy road. So, if you're an owner of, or if you were an owner of the old XSR900, you know that the suspension was very hard. It was performing nice on good roads, but it was very hard and it didn't really like bumps. And I'm happy to say that the new suspension is much different, much better over the bumps, much smoother, much more comfortable, to be honest. And we were able to test this on this bumpy road. We were going at a decent pace, and I actually never had problems, turning into a corner with bumps. I never lost traction or control. Never lost the contact to the road, so that was really a nice way to see that this new suspension, it was much improved compared to the outgoing model. So to make this long story short, I would like to give you my little verdict after the experience I had. I mean, I rode, as I mentioned, I rode about 180 kilometers in Italy. Yep, and I really love the bike for what it has to do. It is a great bike for twisty roads. I would even call it, and I called it in my Instagram post, I called it probably king of the mountain roads, because it's just very nice to ride. It gives a lot of confidence. It has this great mid-range which is just addictive in combination with that lovely sound. So it's a great machine to enjoy riding sporty. It's not the best commuter, I have to really be transparent about that. It's not the most comfortable bike I have ever ridden, but if you're looking for a lifestyle bike that is also, performing well and looking nice, the XSR900 might be a great option for you, especially as you get very much equipment and a great bike for the asking price. They actually ask for the bike. I hope this short introduction, short impressions about this bike were helpful for you, and you enjoyed the riding impressions from beautiful Italy. This was your friendly neighborhood Dragon Rider. Thanks for watching. See you next time.